Alright, so I've come to the conclusion that if you're gonna do Fireteam Ops on a Grandmaster level, then you better be prepared to just do it solo, especially for the match-made ones, because Bungie likes to give you these ridiculous mods, like this Volatile shield mod thing where you turn into a ticking time bomb and then your teammate has to come and disable you. Right, so I mean, like that, and Bungie admitted they screwed up the timers for the Fireteam Ops. So look, we're already at 0. We just had 18 reses, right? And 10 seconds into the video, the timer ends. We've barely even begun the boss fight, and we basically rushed through to get to the boss. Like, my teammates were just headfirst into battle, dying left and right, not killing all the enemies, loading into the next zone. So I'm figuring, okay, well, this is probably just going to be a typical match-made Fireteam Ops run where I don't even get A-tier rewards. I get some crappy lower tiered loot, and that's, you know, it is what it is. But whatever, I'll finish it. I'm already in there. Right, and so of course this happens, right? I knew this was going to happen, and I figured it was probably just going to be a dead run, but I figured I may as well try, right? My teammates are already dead. They probably just figured I would come res them. Maybe they weren't paying attention to the timer and the fact that the revives went from 18 down to 0 10 seconds into the boss fight. Well, I ain't resing them because I can't, and they probably are. They're about to discover that no, they can't just sit tight and watch me play out the boss fight to see if I get the loot. In fact, if they did that, they'd probably be wasting their own time, because, you know, how am I going to survive with this ticking time bomb thing, right? I either have to avoid getting critical the entire time, or that's it, I'm dead. So at this point, I just count myself dead, right? But my teammates probably don't even realize they're going to get kicked to orbit for being AFK, even if they're moving their joystick around or their keyboard pressing buttons. Nope, you're still going to get kicked to orbit in probably like 2-3 minutes, and they're not going to get any loot. So yeah, none of that's explained really, and the timer is messed up. Okay, so yeah, that's one of the big problems with Fireteam Ops: bad modifiers, bad timer. But look at this, I'm critical, right? So look, I either have to give up or I just have to wait, right? Or you can pop your super. If you have your super, right? If you don't have your super, you got 15 seconds, right? And chances are, if you don't have your super, you're not getting it in 15 seconds. So you can just count yourself dead. But come to find out, you can heal, right? You can heal your way out of that state. So you can pick up an orb, assuming that you don't have a dead health stat, right? I know a lot of people just think that the health stat is dead, but it's only dead if it's 0. Right, it's still a good stat if you have some points in health, because then when you pick up an orb of power, it's recuperation, right, based on the number of health stat points that you have. So because I have, I think I have 69 health here. Yeah, I got 69 health and 69 grenade stat. That was not intentional, it just is. Right, so it means I get a fair amount of healing, I get out of critical, and I could bust out of the modifier. I didn't know that at this time, though. I have no idea what's going on. I just figure I'm dead as soon as I get the volatile shield break. You know, that's just it, unless I got my super. So I'll just try and stay alive until I get my super, and then play a little bit more aggressively, do some damage, get this done. Right, so you can pick up an orb. Come to think of it now, too, my Aurora Dawn, my wave frame stasis sword, has Unrelenting on it, which is by choice, and that may have pulled me out of that state. Like, I just pulled out of that state there. But there's another trick that you can use to counter the modifier. You'll notice I had Reactive Booster Depleted as a buff on the left side of my screen. That's because I'm using the Aeon Renewal set, a 4-piece set for this build, and I did it on purpose because with Wishful Ignorance, it's nice to, being on a Strand subclass, you get a free speed booster, so you can get some of that arc-flavored, prismatic-flavored ability kit on your core subclass, right? So that's kind of nice. Especially for power leveling and doing the portal stuff and just speeding through things, right? Pretty nice. The second perk of the Aeon Renewal set is Reactive Booster, and that says when you get critical on health, you automatically get Speed Booster. So what I'm thinking is the reason why that I pulled out of the Volatile Shield modifier so many times here is because I had Force Converter and Reactive Booster as perks for my armor set, so when I get critical, I get Speed Booster and it breaks me out of that state, right? I don't know if it's intentional, but I'm pretty sure that's what's happening. Let's see what happens here. Oh yeah, I got my super again. Okay, so I believe this is 100 super on this build, so I get my super pretty regularly, so that worked out. So yeah, that's a nice little trick, right? I'll see if I can throw in a little test video at the end, like maybe a minute or so. I'll just do it in the loot cave or the firing range, and I'll play around with the perks, see what happens, right? If I have time, I'll do that. But mainly just wanted to throw this together unscripted. I had the footage of this video because I actually managed to complete it, and I was pretty happy with myself. And I got A tier rewards despite being long past the timer and my teammates being dead and them rushing through to get to this point and not killing all the enemies. I went out of my way to make sure all the champions died, right? Even though I figured I was probably going to get killed by the boss or something else, because it's like -40. It's at least -30 or -40, these Grandmaster activities on Matchmade, right? So normally what happens, you know, this is a big problem with the Fireteam Ops, with playing with blueberries and nobody on mic, right? It's nice, it's casual. Nobody has to talk, right? But when they make it so you have to flawless the Fireteam Op, right? One person dies, they're out. They don't get anything, right? Because of the timer. Then, you know, it starts to suffer because nobody's coordinating, nobody's speaking to each other, right? And people just try to speed through it, thinking that, you know, the faster they get it done, the faster they get in the next one, whatever, right? So they just don't kill all the champions, right? It's like doing the old Grandmasters and skipping champs and then wondering why you didn't get an adept weapon, right? Or platinum rewards, right? If you don't get platinum in the old strikes and GMs and weekly missions, you don't get the good loot. So same principle applies here with these portal activities. You kill the tankier enemies, especially champions, you get more points, and then you're more likely to get A tier rewards, even if it's forecasted for B+. So I'm trying to kill absolutely everything here, right? And now that my teammates are dead, I can kind of control that, which is, you know, so it's a double-edged sword here. I'm probably going to die and have to restart, or I'm going to complete it, and I will have killed all the enemies myself, and maybe I'll get A tier rewards, which I do, right? So I get a bit lucky. Anyways, that's my little rant over about Fireteam Ops. Hopefully Bungie fixes it. So, you know, I did it with this build, so I may as well explain the build, right? I'm using Wishful Ignorance. I haven't showcased it yet. I've told you guys that I've been rocking this build, and I've been rocking Alpha Loopy, and pretty much that's it, right? I have a ranged defensive build in Alpha Loopy. I've got my fast melee build with Wishful Ignorance, right? So the stuff I'm using on this, I'm using Shackle on this build specifically because I've got Demo and Attrition Orbs and Innervation, right? So I pick up an orb, I get Grenade Energy, I get kills with Festival of Flight, I get Grenade Energy, I can automatically reload it by throwing my Shackle. Shackles help me with Unstoppable Champions if I didn't realize there was unstops, right? If I'm just casually playing Fireteam Ops, I have a counter for everything, right? I've got the third iteration to break barrier shields. I've got Shackles for unstops. I've got my super for unstops, and then I've got Aurora Dawn with Cold Steel for overloads, right? So that's the loadout. Third iteration is really nice when you're soloing stuff because that gives you invisibility. Also, you get a little bonus for having, it's a Hake Breach exotic weapon, so I could, you know, kill the turrets pretty fast to break the boss's shield and get the damage. Other than that, I run it with Thread of Continuity. That way I've got extended duration on all the unraveling, right? Because that's what my Flechette Storm does. It unravels the enemies. Banner of War, of course, you need to have that, so you do the most amount of Flechette Storm damage as possible. Because we're unraveling so much, and because I'm using Festival of Flight, I like to run it with Thread of Propagation, I believe it's called, right? That also gives you plus 10 melee, but it gives you unraveling rounds, right? So I get Flechette Storm kills. Now Festival Flight is unraveling stuff as well, right? Which also pierces barriers, by the way. I also run it with Thread of Warding, since I'm producing orbs with attrition orbs. And from getting melee kills, I pick up the orbs, I get my Woven Mail, and I got Thread of Continuity so that Unravel lasts longer, Suspend lasts longer, all that kind of stuff. I think I said Thread of Continuity already. The other fragment is Thread of Fury, right? So when even though it gives me negative 10 melee, it gives you more melee energy when you get Tangle Breaks, right? So that's the cool thing there. I run 1 font for strength, and that gives me 200 strength. So I mean, that pretty much explains the build. I'll see if I can add something else in there. There you go, A tier rewards. I get my tier 3 stuff right before hitting 400. Now it's all tier 4. Okay, and real quick before I end the video, here's an overview of the build for Wishful Ignorance using all featured gear. Like I said, I'm using Shackle in this specific mission, but normally I'm on Grapple. If I was really wanted to be spamming Shackles, I'd have higher than 69 Grenade and I'd use Thread of Generation, but this is the setup that I use typically, but it would be with Grapple, right? It's just sometimes you get the Grapple modifier and it's annoying, and then your Grapple is useless because you can't grapple melee, right? Yesterday I got into a matchmade activity that had Grappler and Grenadier, so like, yeah, thanks Bungie. Like, I appreciate the really good grenades that you gave me that I can't even use because you replaced it with Grappler, right? Anyways, everything's there. Take a look, take notes, ask me in the comments section. I'll talk to you guys later. Take care.